Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation. And today I've got Tim Durling from Tim's Vinyl Confessions. And we're going to do a special episode ranking the songs of Def Leppard Hysteria, from our least favorite to our most favorite. Tim, how's it going?
It's going really well, Peter. Thanks. And I've been looking forward to this. We're talking about an album that I've called my favorite of all time. So there are no songs on this album that I don't like. But when you said if you were to rank them in order of your least favorite to favorite,
Yep.
how then would the album play out? And I thought about and I looked at it a few times and I thought, you know, that's an interesting idea. So I went for it. Actually, this may be the only album that I've got two deluxe versions of because this deluxe version came out in 2006, and then of course there's this one that came out in 2019. And actually this one's got more to do with, like, this has got the Hysteria B sides and things like that on it. This has the live in the round in your face video just as an audio form, and I wish they would have just put that out by itself as a standalone, but I had to have them. So
Yep.
yeah, this is a lot of fun ranking them. And I didn't um I didn't change the order. I could put a playlist together and change the order of them, but I think this would be a good way to build the excitement of listening to it.
Absolutely. And I'll just say a couple of things and we'll get straight into it. I think to me, Def Leppard, this album I've had a love-hate relationship with. I loved it, and then I went for a period I didn't like it. It's sort of up and down. And at this point in time, I like the album or not, but it is not a heavy metal album in no way,
No,
shape, or form to me.
no.
It is not even a hard rock album. I would say it's a rock album. My channel is Rock Daydream Nation, and it's about rock. And therefore, Def Leppard is rock, and that's the way I see it. It is no way, shape, or form of Def Leppard this album is a heavy metal album, and that's why I think it cops a little bit of stick
Yeah.
because of the earlier albums. So if you're into the early Def Leppard, When the Walls Come Tumbling Down, 1980, that's a live album I did on one of my channel shows, or, High and Dry, I just picked out a couple. This album may not be for you. So I will imagine we'll get a lot of comments, but it is what it is. And I regard this album as a rock album. So, Tim, throw it to me. We'll start from the least favorite and we'll
Okay.
work our way up.
Okay. So yeah, keep in mind, like I've said, I've called this my favorite album of all time. There aren't any songs on it I don't like. But if we're going for the preferred songs, the ones that
Yep.
just never fail, I'm going to start the album off with a song that um, they actually did the last time I saw them. I saw them in 2019. I got this shirt here. I'll show you real quick. Def Leppard Rock Brigade. Um, and the song is Excitable. And not a bad song at all. They played it live, and I thought that was kind of cool. It's like, wow, they're going to do like half of Hysteria live because they kind of have to, and then they did this one too. So, yeah, I think this is a good album opener because it's upbeat, and yeah, having to rank them was hard, but yeah, I'm going to start it off with this one.
Okay. Well done. Okay. I'm going to start off my least favorite with Love and Affection. I think that it's a bit of an anticlimax. It's the last track. And to me, I don't know, to my ears, it sounds very similar to Hysteria. Chord wise. And so when I was playing the album, and before I do these shows, I play the albums, quite a few times just to get into the groove. And I played Love and Affection and Hysteria back and forth. And yeah, it confirmed they sound very similar, but I think it's a little bit anticlimactic. And I think if you I'm always big on the last song. It's got to be punchy and it's got to be memorable. And this song is not quite as memorable or climatic as it could be. Another thing about this band and a lot of things in the 80s is when I think record companies were doing song lists on albums, they made side one very top heavy with potential singles. Side two, less so. So this was the era of, you know, if you're putting an album out and you're going to put singles, loaded up on side one. And we'll talk more about this as we go through the ranking, but how many singles off that, you know, the Def Leppard album were in side one comparative to side two? But anyway, that's my least favorite, Love and Affection.
That's actually my next one. I put that as the second, I guess it would be the second track. Kind of an odd choice for a second track, but that's just how it came out. Yeah, very similar in tempo to Hysteria and only separated by one song. It makes me wonder, you know, should they have put one of those songs on side one? You know, because as you said, you know, the side, you know, side one's top heavy. It's side one was all singles. They weren't all hits. One wasn't, but and only one of those, one hit single on side two. But yeah, even if they just separated it by another song, I think it really reinforces the fact that they're very similar songs. But an enjoyable song. I mean, you know, I know all the, like, it's an album I've listened to so much. I know all of those vocal ad libs as the song fades out, and oddly enough, Excitable and Love and Affection, you know, if things had gone according to the record company plan, would have been singles 8 and 9. If they had done 9 full singles to get all of the squares that formed the big collage like I've got on my wall. And, you know, I think I talked about this before. I wish they'd have just gone ahead and done it, because I just think it would have been so cool. And probably, you know, another thing it would have done, it might have given us a couple more really good B-sides, because, you know, I was also thinking an alternate way of looking at this might be if you were going to, instead of just taking the 12 songs that were on the album, mixing in some of those B-sides, like I Want to Be Your Hero and Ring of Fire, and like really, really strong songs that didn't make the album. But sticking with the 12 songs we've got, Love and Affection's my number 2.
Yeah, good one. Do you think any of the B-sides you would have swapped across and slotted it into the main album and dropped any of the album tracks, like, you know, Love and Affection or Excitable, as you were saying?
You know, I really like I Want to Be Your Hero. I think I'd have put that. I think I'd have put that in. That might have made a good closer. And I hate the idea of taking out any of the songs, but and it's funny because Tear It Down they redid for Adrenalize, but I like the original version better. But yeah, I Want to Be Your Hero and Ring of Fire would have been a really good closer. But it's interesting to think about. I mean, I love the fact that we had all of those songs and we ended up with Retroactive, which is a pretty enjoyable collection of songs in its own right.
Yeah. Anyway, that's something to think about. All right. Next one on my list is Don't Shoot Shotgun. I always thought that the lyrics on this were a little bit cliche. It's about a dangerous van. I don't like the wordplay as much as the other songs. This album has some really clever wordplay, and I think that gets up the nose of quite a few people too. You know, they think it may be too clever, but I think this one, the wordplay is not as clever as it could be, and it's the lyrics are just a little bit too predictable. You know, so that's my number 11. Don't Shoot Shotgun,
and that's my number 10.
Oh, okay.
We're kind of close here.
Yeah, we're lining it up.
Yeah, you know, it's a fun kind of rock song. It's got, you know, they're such from the Queen school of vocal production, and of course, I didn't appreciate that at the time. It was a few years before I got into Queen, and then I realized when you have all those run for cover, like, that all comes from Queen or Sweet, depending on who you talk to. But a good song. But it's my number 3 track on the album, or number 10.
Yep. Understand. All right. The next one, I think this one, just researching on the internet, does cop a bit of stick on it, and it goes into that wordplay that they may be a little bit too clever, and that's Armageddon it. You know, like, are you getting it? For some reason, the key changes on this one, it doesn't sort of, I don't think it's as strong as some of the other tracks on this album. And yeah, like as I said, just the wordplay, it's maybe a little bit too clever. I don't know. Anyway, that's my number 10.
Well, okay, you threw a big hit out fairly early on. Now it's my turn. I'm going to go with Love Bites. I know
Ooh.
people everywhere are going to go, what?
Yeah.
This is my favorite album of all time, folks, so chill out.
Mm.
A really, really different song. It's far from a cliche power ballad. It's very, very intricate. And it's well performed, and I think it might be one of Joe's best vocal performances on the album. It's just, um, listening to that, especially listening to side one of the album, it's the only slow song on side one. So it comes on and it's like, and it's almost 6 minutes long. It's a long song. Um, it's almost like the excitement level drops a little bit. And I know it's weird. I'm talking about the only number one song they ever had in the U.S.
Mm.
But it's just my opinion, and that's where I'm slotting Love Bites in.
Yeah, that was such a huge radio hit all around the world. Yeah, their number one song. Yeah, I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I agree with you. It's an extraordinarily well-produced song, and definitely one of his vocals. Random question to you, and I'll be throwing this as we go across the journey of this combo. If you started off getting into Def Leppard with those first two albums, how do you think you would have dealt with material like Love Bites and this album in general? Do you think this would have been a seismic shock?
It's very
putting
different.
Yourself in the perspective of you're a fan.
And that's something that I can totally get. The people that swear by On Through the Night and High and Dry and the new wave of British heavy metal, even though they claim they were never part of it, but they came out at that time. And Pyromania is like a bridge album between High and Dry and Hysteria, not just because of where it sits, but thematically, sound wise. But it was such a long gap between bands. Other than Boston, bands did not take 4 years in between albums. That was unheard of back then. In the 70s and the late 60s, 70s, it was 2 albums a year. Then it was 1 album a year. By the time you get to the 80s, it was usually an album every 2 years.
Yeah.
Nobody took 4 years. And, I've never been what you'd call a metalhead per se. I've always just liked melodic, guitar-based rock and roll. So I'm not so sure that I'd liked those first 2 albums if I'd heard them first. They might have been a little too abrasive sounding to my ears. I love the High and Dry is probably my second favorite Def Leppard album. Yeah. I just love it,
the US remix or the UK?
Oh, they're both.
Yeah.
To me, it's equally. Yeah. I'll take the extra one. I'll take the remix because you get me in my wine. But but On Through the Night I like too. On Through the Night's a very different sounding album. On Through the Night is an album you could almost put on for someone who's younger, and they might not even know that's Def Leppard at first because Joe he's got so much deeper a voice on that album. But I can see if you were into Maiden and Priest and AC/DC and Motorhead, and you've waited for, you tolerated the commerciality of Pyromania and hearing Photograph on the radio all the time and Rock of Ages and Foolin', and they were so popular. And then Hysteria comes out. Yeah, I'd have probably hated it.
Yeah.
But this is where I came in.
Absolutely. And I've always said it's where you enter a band's catalog is how you view the album. Like I know a recent Contrarians chat, I don't know the outcome of the chat, was about Hold Your Fire. That's one of my favorites Rush albums because that's like around that period was my entry.
Again, same year, right? Like this is when I was just really just soaking everything in, and I'd buy a cassette every so often, and I was just wanting to know more, right? So yeah, there's a lot to be said. That nostalgia is a powerful, powerful thing. But when you can
Absolutely.
still put something on and say, you know what, it isn't just the fact that I remember when I bought this. Like I really like these songs.
Absolutely. Well, my entry point was Pyromania. So I think the Pyromania to Hysteria wasn't, the gap and the change wasn't as dramatic, unless comparative to the first album, to Hysteria, which is just seismic. So no,
Yeah.
interesting perspective. All right, my next one, counting down, is Hysteria. I like it. It's a ballad. And I like the way he has used the word hysteria, because when you think hysteria, you think of hysterical, you think of it in a negative sense. But Joe Elliott, when he wrote this song, put it meaning hysteria as in a romantic sense, as bliss. And I thought that was
Yeah.
a really interesting perspective. The harmonies are just magnificently, they're just layered thick. And I read a story about how they were doing backing track upon backing track and upon backing track using the same tape. And sometimes the tape would wear out.
Yeah.
So just the story behind the making of this record. And one thing I've got to emphasize: this is a revolutionary produced record. Nothing up to this time sounded quite like this. Now, Mutt Lange hinted at it through with AC/DC, Foreigner, but it was fully realized on this. It was like a mad scientist in a studio setting, just rubbing his hands together. And Def Leppard, I'm going to be using you guys, and let's just go. Let's just expand our horizons in regards to it.
And they were pushing technology, like they were pushing technology
Absolutely.
beyond its limits at the time, and that's part of the reason why it took so long.
Yeah.
Because in a few years, just a few more years, you could get that depth of production and layer all those vocals, copying and pasting, but no, they were doing it, by hand, so to speak, and they were, probably like rigging tape machines together
Yeah.
and yeah, really pushing the technology to the limit to create, like what they called Star Wars for the ears. And that's one thing I really do remember about listening to this album on my little Walkman with headphones. It was like going on a trip, because you'd hear all the
Absolutely.
swirling and the
Yeah.
flanging and yeah, those are the great memories right there of listening to this on my Walkman.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, look, I mean, every teenager, you didn't want to turn the record player too loud, with your parents. Turn it down, put the headphones on, and then you just for an hour, you're just taken somewhere different. And this album was just a soundscape. It was just such a broad palette. Mutt Lange, arguably he's he's an extra member of Def Leppard, as arguably like a George Martin was the fifth
Absolutely.
Beatle. He's in that class. And but look, Hysteria has got all of those. It's got the harmonies, it's got the layers, and that's my next pick. I really like that ballad. But as I said, that's not a bad song. It's just I ranked some
Well, that's
others a
just
little bit
we're
higher.
getting better, right? Like we're getting what we think is even better than the one before, right?
Absolutely.
So for my next one, so this would be track 5, I guess. I'm going to go with Rocket, which was the 7th and final single from the album. It's a really fun song. It's a production tour de force on the album. They shortened it up. I think they called it the Lunar Mix for the version that they used for the video, and then it was on the radio. And it doesn't have quite so many of those long production passages with the background vocals and the phased vocals. But at its core, it's a fun song lyrically about the music that they grew up with. And I actually learned some things from this because the references that Joe uses in the song, I didn't get until a few years later. Ziggy, Benny and the Jets, and
Yes.
Dizzy, Lizzie, Major Tom, Gene Genie, Killer Queen. And like, it was, after a while, it would just be like, oh, that's where that came from. Oh, that's what he's talking about. And So it's a lot of fun. I love the fact that, you know, almost 2 years, like another couple of months had gone by, it would have been a full 2 years since they started releasing singles from Hysteria. That's how strong that album was selling. It was so much so that they'd already put out their home video, the Hysteria video with all of their
Mm,
videos on it. They had to tack on Love Bites at the end, and then they still put out another video after that, and they had to wait until they put out the Visualize
yeah.
to complete the Hysteria cycle. But so a good song. Uh, as a matter of fact, that last show that I saw from them, which is I've seen them 3 times, they opened with Rocket, and they just had the recording of it playing.
Yeah.
And the curtain was slowly rising, and they were just standing there.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, these guys know how, like, they're rock stars, like, and they're so good at the presentation. And then at a certain point, they actually jumped in with it and started to play it. But yeah, that was a cool opening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
my number 5.
Yeah, I think I saw that concert. They did the Hysteria album from start to finish. Is that the show where
No,
they? Yeah,
no, that was they did that back in 2013, the Viva Hysteria. This
right.
was just the last tour they did. There wasn't any real theme to it, but Rocket was their opening number.
Yeah. Well, in Australia, they actually, I think 2019, they did the tour, and it was behind Let's do Hysteria from start to finish. And it was really interesting because a lot of the songs had never been played in a live environment before,
Yeah,
like Run Riot, for example.
yeah, yeah.
Some of the deeper
That's what I thought.
cuts.
That's what I thought when they did Excitable. I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were supported by the Scorpions. But unfortunately, the night I went, Klaus had a bad throat or something, and he couldn't make it. So wasn't able to see the Scorpions, but that would have been a really awesome support, double bill, like Def Leppard and Scorpions. But yeah, that's a really good song, Rocket. And it's got all of the wheelhouse loves of Joe Elliott. Big Bowie
Yeah,
fan, big T-Rex. He loves all
yeah.
the glam. And it makes you think, how aligned do you think they really were with the new wave of British metal?
You know what? I think a lot of it. There's a couple things. I think that Pete Willis, their first guitar player, like Pete and Steve, I think he was the metalhead of the band, and because he was writing a lot of the riffs, like Wasted, and
Mm,
good stuff, really good stuff. Because you'll notice after he left, there was a big change. Even though he co-wrote everything on
mm,
Pyromania, it's not like he wasn't, melodically minded, but Phil Collin was that much more so. He came from Girl, like he came from the glam school. So I think he and Joe were very simpatico on that.
mm,
The other thing is just simply timing. They came out, they were playing the same clubs as, Maiden and Saxon and in all the bands below,
mm,
Diamond Head and all of that stuff.
mm.
But they were putting out singles. Um, yeah, they were at the right place at the right time, and they were British. So
Yeah,
that kind of.
absolutely, absolutely.
But
Yeah,
but but what's fun about that is that I'm fascinated because I'm also a big Metallica fan. So I'm fascinated by the new wave of British heavy metal and how all of these bands just did it themselves. So anytime there's a new wave of British heavy metal discussion, I've got On Through the Night. I can say, hey, I can take part in this. So
yeah, yeah. Hey, another good album. I think it was a Record Store Day release. Was their EP. That is killer. Have you got that?
I was fortunate enough to pick that up. It was
Oh,
the
it's
store that
magnificent.
I got it at. I think they only got like 2 copies in, and I happened to
Uh,
get one of them. And there was a guy right behind me that
yeah,
said, that's the only reason I came today. And I'm sorry, man. I usually miss that stuff, but I happened to catch that.
yeah. No, I lined up. Record Store Day is a bit of a lucky dip, and
Oh yeah,
usually you put a list to your record store of what you want, and I wanted that. And there was 2 copies, and I was lucky to secure. But that particular year, I think it was a couple of years ago, that was easily the best purchase. It was just because that record I think was going for like thousands of dollars because it was only a
crazy.
do-it-yourself press run. And
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, yeah,
but you listen to it, Tim, and it sounds so accomplished for a band that were only 18, 19, 20
yeah.
years.
Oh
They've
yeah, like
always been ahead of the curve.
yeah, right from the beginning, they were just better than all the other bands.
Mm,
They weren't just more melodically
accomplished,
minded, they were just better. And even if you
accomplished.
just listened On Through the Night, they always had great harmony vocals.
Yep.
I think all of them except Rick Allen and sang live,
Yeah,
you just had this thickness of sound. And that's the thing.
absolutely.
Like, I know that's another knock on Hysteria. It doesn't sound, quote unquote real. Like a band doesn't set of drums and plug your guitars in. You can't sound like that. But
Mm,
you see them live and they pull it off. They don't
yeah,
do all of the layers of vocals, but because 4 to 5 guys sing, you're not missing, you're not saying, huh, that sounds a little thin. Like it just, they know what they're doing.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right. My next one is women. Lots of pretty women. That's the first taste of the album, and I think that I read that they put that out as the first single, just to put it to the guys, and
In North
their male
America, I think
their
North
male
America
audience, and
was
this
the,
is what it's all about.
yeah,
I think it's a fun track, and I
yeah.
love the riff. No, the video clip's a lot of fun. Yeah, I think it's just fun. I can't go any more than just say, if I had to have one word to describe that song, I'd just say it's just fun. And I rate it pretty highly. Yeah.
So my song number 6, so this would be the last song on side 1, if there was such a thing, is Animal. Women was the first single in North America. I don't think it was anywhere else in the world. The single order is a little bit mixed up. I think
Yeah,
Animal
yeah,
was the
yeah.
first single in most parts of the world. It was their first top 10 single in the UK, which is kind of surprising. None of the songs from Pyromania were successful in their own home country. There was a bit of backlash that they sold out to the American market and all
Tall
that.
poppies, they call it, tall poppies.
Yeah, exactly. Can't stand the idea of anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think you get that in a lot of countries. I mean,
Australia,
we're
we
like
call it
that
the
in
tall
Canada
poppy
too, to
syndrome.
a certain
Yeah,
extent. You just like, oh, they think they're all big because they went in the States. They worked really hard and they toured their
yeah,
butts off
we've
in
got
the
to
States to
knock you
make it.
down a peg.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
But so the funny thing is, um, it took me a while before I got into the band. It took me a while before I got into the album, and I really didn't like Animal at all when it came out. I really did not like it. I can't really pinpoint why, but it just annoyed me, and I wish I could put it more eloquently than that. And I don't know if it was something as simple as, at this time I would have been 13, so I would have been, grade 8, so I would have been, awkward teenage years or whatever. And I wasn't a particularly popular kid. And it might have been, there were some kids I didn't really like at school and they would be singing the song and that made me dislike it even more. Sounds really stupid, but it might have had something to do with that. You know, Now it comes on and it's you sing along to that. They've got these sing along choruses that are pretty hard to deny if you know what they're saying. Because that's
yeah,
another thing about Hysteria I always thought was really funny, is because as in depth and detailed as the liner notes are, one thing they didn't put in it was the lyrics, and you can't understand Joe Elliott a lot of the time. I actually I have the sheet music book to Hysteria, and that's where I found out, oh, that's what he says. Okay. Yeah, I would just sort of approximate what I thought it said. But yeah,
yeah.
Animal is my side 1 closer.
Absolutely. With the sheet music, did you buy that recently? Is that?
No, that was given to me. I got that a long time
Yeah,
ago. It's
I've seen that.
probably from within a year or so of it being out.
Yeah, I've seen that on eBay. That goes for a pretty penny, Tim. Those, yeah. That's good. Good. Yeah, that's another song. I'll talk more about that later, but wordplay,
Yeah.
and I'm
And I want, and I need animal.
Yeah. Interesting wordplay. My next one is excitable. I like, so the trademark of the Mutt Lange is the gang vocals, the gang chorus, and I love the call and response. I think it's a fun sort of song. There's a bit of a lineage to early Def Leppard on this one too, with the riffage, and it's got also a little bit of a new wave sound to it. I've got a question to you. Like, you've probably got a lot of the Mutt Lange other albums, like AC/DC. Do you think there's any hint on his earlier work that he was going to do something so different, so expansive, like Hysteria? Do you think there was any hint in Back in Black, or For Those You're About to Rock, or even Foreigner 4, that he was going to put something like this out and just really just try to with the sampling and just really push it as far as he could go?
Not really, I don't think. Not with the AC/DC albums, but it's interesting because he produced Highway to Hell, Back in Black, and For Those About to Rock, and especially Back in Black, which is, again, like, so Mutt Lange's been behind the helm of some of the biggest selling albums of all time, right?
Yeah.
Back in Black is just so perfectly recorded. Like, everything is completely, it's just a perfect sounding hard rock album. Everything's in its place, but it's not overproduced. The drums sound real. No, there's nothing on, Foreigner 4, yeah, a little bit in the drum sound. And what I find interesting is because, Mutt Lange sang so many of the background vocals for a lot of the projects that he worked on, that you kind of think it sounds like Def Leppard, even when it's not. And, the first hint, and I could be wrong because I know he's produced the band City Boy, and I know he worked with the band Tycoon, and there's a few other things, and the Boomtown Rats that I really don't know much about. But the first trace I can find of that Def Leppard / Mutt Lange background vocal is on Touch Too Much by AC/DC from Highway to Hell. After the guitar solo, it kind of goes into a breakdown, and you've got that touch too much, like, back underneath, like after Bon Scott will sing something. And so I heard that years later, and I thought, okay, so he was doing that back then.
Yes.
And there's another example of that on Foreigner 4, one of my favorite songs on that album. It was a single, but it's not one that went on to get the airplay that, say, Urgent or Waiting for a Girl Like You does, but it's the song Break It Up. And way through, Mutt Lange comes in with these background vocals answering Lou Gramm, and it sounds so cool. And yeah, with the drum sound and the vocals, you do get a little taste of that, what was to come. But I don't think even Pyromania doesn't sound anything like Hysteria. So, it's almost like in another, reality. It's almost like there should have been a bridge album in 1985 between Pyromania and Hysteria.
Yes.
So they didn't sound so drastically different. And I think maybe it would have just been more gradual, but because nothing had come out and they just kept on writing and kept on writing and kept on Lange for a while. They tried Jim Steinman, that didn't work. Rick had his accident, that set them back. Joe Elliott had the mumps. I mean, they had all these things happening. They didn't get Mutt because he was producing the Cars' Heartbeat City. Again, a very modern sounding album. If you listen to Heartbeat City, I mean, I think all their previous albums were produced by Roy Thomas Baker. Heartbeat City's very Mutt Lange sounding.
Yeah, the soundscape of that is.
Yeah. You listen to a song like Magic, and you can hear Mutt Lange. You can hear in the drums, and you can hear in the background,
or even the title track, Heartbeat City. It's
or Hello Again. Hello, like that's Mutt. That's got to be Mutt singing. You can
absolutely.
And then later on, when he worked with Bryan Adams and then Shania Twain, and he even made Nickelback sound like Def Leppard when he worked with
okay, enough of that.
No, I know. I'm just saying he had such a stamp. Michael Bolton. I mean, when he took over a project, it was like, okay, I'll work with you, but it's going to sound, they're going to know I had something to do with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, I certainly, with AC/DC, I wouldn't think. If there was maybe a signpost album that pointed the way towards Hysteria, it would have to be Foreigner 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even High and Dry sounds like that yet. That.
Well, I've got an unsubstantiated theory here, so there's no research, there's no background to this, but my theory is that I think that Mutt wanted AC/DC to get into this sort of sound. It was never, but you've got very strong-willed personalities in AC/DC, and you've got people like Malcolm and Angus Young that are don't tolerate fools, no bullshit. They would not cop anything like that. And I think Mutt was really pushing them into the melodic area, because you could see, like, those early AC/DC albums, which I love the Bon albums, are very dry. There's no background gang vocals. And then you had Highway to Hell that had that production, and you had those background vocals. And I think that's where the seeds were sown, and he was really pushing, with Back in Black into a template that is more or less maybe Pyromania. I don't think he would ever be able to push AC/DC in any shape or form to Hysteria because they wouldn't have tolerated. But I think he wanted to push it into a Pyromania type thing with a lot of melody. But I don't think they wanted it. And
you know what? I'm completely there. I've had that thought, and I think that's why they stopped working with him. If you listen to
Flick of the Switch, self-produced, they dropped him.
Yeah, but if you listen to For Those About to Rock, there are some good songs on there, but it starts to sound a little labored, which for AC/DC, that doesn't work. And you're right, there's no way Malcolm and Angus would have tolerated that. But I will say this in defense of Mutt Lange. If you listen to Highway to Hell, I remember listening to that because I got into AC/DC a bit later, but I remember listening to that once, and I don't know what song it was. I think it might have been like Love Hungry Man or one of those songs on the second half, and thinking, Bon Scott was starting to sing really, really well. Like he was starting to actually sing on some of those songs. And I think Mutt Lange pushed him in that direction. It would just be like, you can't just slur your way through the lyrics or, cackle your way through the lyrics. I want you to actually sing this line and see what you think. And of course, I mean, there's always what would the next AC/DC album have sounded like with Bon on vocals? But I think he was always about melody, and it's interesting. I always get the feeling that, so AC/DC weren't going to go for that approach. So it's almost like he looked around and goes, okay, give me another band. Give me a band I can mold and shape. And Def Leppard were the perfect band at the perfect time. And the difference being is that they were all for it. They loved melody.
Absolutely. And that early Def Leppard.
It's interesting to note that Mutt produced High and Dry, but he didn't co-write anything on it. And that's a key difference between that album and Pyromania.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's an interesting take. All right. My next one is Pour Some Sugar on Me. That is the big breakthrough song. It's probably their signature song.
I would say so, yeah.
So if you looked at any reference book and you look at Def Leppard, you go across, you probably say Pour Some Sugar on Me. I think that was the song that conquered America. It crystallizes everything about the album or about glam. I think, again, it's another fun song. Lyrically, does it amount to anything of substance? No, not really, but it's fun. And it's a perfect homage to their, the glam roots of Sweet, Slade, Bowie, T-Rex, all in one song. So, yeah.
So my song number 7, first track on side 2 is the title song, Hysteria. Great tune, was their first top 10 single in the US. I always just found this song just went down really smooth. It was laid back and it was just the right kind of, I wouldn't call it a power ballad because it's a little faster than most ballads, but it's a good mid-tempo type of song. There's so much guitar layering that goes on. Again, especially if you're listening with headphones, you really don't get the full effect of this album without a good pair of headphones where you can hear that full stereo spectrum in it. And it's one of their most played songs, I think, on radio now. Not the most, but it's up there. And another thing that I like, and I've read Joe Elliott talk about this, because a lot of these songs on Hysteria are quite long. I mean, the album... I think the album's about 63 minutes long. It pushed the limits on what you could actually get on a single piece of vinyl. Of course, nowadays they just put twice the vinyl and charge you twice the price, which I think is ridiculous. But they managed to get it all on one record, and it still sounded good. But you don't get the feeling when you listen to a song like Hysteria that you're listening to a 5.5 minute song. It sounds like it's over in about 3.5, 4 minutes because it just kind of glides by. All the parts are perfectly in place, and I love the guitar solo, and it's not a complicated solo, but you've got Phil and Steve playing the exact same part, and it's so full sounding and so cool sounding. And it was fun when they would do it in concert, when Joe would come out and play the rhythm guitar just for that one song.
Okay. Very good. My next one is probably one of the most technically impressively produced songs on the album, and that's Gods of War. You've got the gang harmonies, you've got the crunchy guitars. What I like about the harmonies, you've got, remember when I don't know if you were ever in a school choir, Tim, but you had school choir and you used to, the choir master would divide the choir into twos and they'd do rounds. It'd be like a call and response. It's like this song. You've got in the background, you've got the headphones on, you've got all these different call and response, and it's going from one ear to the other. And it's the Mutt Lange layer upon layer upon layer, overdubbing and tracking of the background vocals. I think it's just such an impressive track. You may, whether you like the song or not, but from a production perspective, it's just so impressive. I like the sampling. This album was very innovative in regards to sampling. And look at sampling now. It's everyone. Well, there's albums that are just are totally samples. But Def Leppard, in this sort of hard rock environment, or I say rock, were leading the way with samples. Another thing that I read about it is when they were doing the recording the choruses or doing the background, apparently Mutt Lange said he was getting the guys to actually overemphasize their words. So if they were singing the words "Gods of War," they'd be going "Gods of War." Yeah. So they would really be sort of overemphasizing or over-pronouncing. So it would come out. So that was an interesting thing I read about this. But yeah, look, Gods of War, I find this, from a technical point of view, probably the most impressive track on the whole album.
Yeah, and one of my favorite, I have a series of DVDs that they put out in the UK called Classic Albums, and they did one on Hysteria, and Rick Savage, the bass player, talks about those layered parts. And it's funny, when you hear those tracks by themselves, you go, what is this? Because it's just like it doesn't sound like anything, but in context of the song it sounds great. But someone, and that someone is Mutt Lange, had to have the mind to know this is how you achieve this is what you've got to do. For Rocket, when they made them go like that, and you're like, what are we doing? Trust me, it'll sound good when it's done. It's again right out of that Queen school, right?
Absolutely.
So my next one, it's always been a song I've really, really liked. It wasn't a single. It's Run Riot. It's a rocking song. It's got some cool guitar in it. Another one where, until I got the lyrics, I had no idea, that, living by the laws is a bloody necessary bore. I had no idea what he was saying. No idea what he was saying. Didn't care. Liked it.
Yeah.
It's we're using the word fun a lot, but it's kind of a fun, upbeat, get up, it's just good stuff. And it's not a song that a record company would listen to and go, that's a single. But I think I wish it got a little bit more attention. I think it could have been an opener. But yeah, so that's my, I guess that would be my number 8 song.
Yeah. Well, guess what? We're on the same path. I picked the same song and the same alignment. I've always gravitated to that song. I think it's one of the strongest songs on side 2 of the album. It's got a bit of a direct lineage to those earlier albums with the
probably
the riffs.
one of the only things that it does on that album.
Yeah, it's punchy, and I really like it a lot. Now, another random question to you, Tim. So, a lot of bands have, like I know the Stones have done it, where they go, like Stones are a big arena band, and every tour they go into a theatre, stripped down environment, and they play an album. So, like I know the Rolling Stones, they played a little 2,000-seater in Sydney, and they just played some, 20 of their tracks, really stripped down. How do you think Def Leppard would go in, in that sort of environment? No bells and whistles, playing the songs of this album. Do you think it would hold up? No extra bells and whistles, just the songs. Yeah.
I think it would. I've got I mean, I've seen them do it before, but I've got my CD for the Slang album came with a 6-song acoustic CD. Because when the Best of Vault first came out, they ended up in the Guinness Book of World Records for playing 3 continents in one day. And I'm trying to think of the 3 places they played. One of them was in Canada, but I think that they know how to select the parts of the songs that are key. And because 4 out of the 5 of them sing, they can harmonize very well. And, Joe is a perfectly competent rhythm guitar player.
Mm.
So that frees up, Phil and Vivian to do what they need to do. Those interlocking guitar parts, again, very Stones influenced, right? Or Aerosmith, where they're not just both playing rhythm until it's time for a lead. What each of them are doing is integral to the song. So yeah, I think they sound really good unplugged. And it's a little bit like the Kiss Unplugged. It's like, if you guys think they can't play, Unplugged is the test, right? It really is the litmus test. So now I don't think they've ever done Hysteria acoustically from start to finish.
Yeah. No, just to be clear, it's not going to be acoustic. It's going to be electric, but no effects.
Oh,
no
okay.
effects, no backing tracks. It's just,
well,
them playing.
I think that makes it even a little bit easier
if
you do have electric guitars.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, let's say you had a situation where, they were about to go on stage and, there's a power outage or whatever, and they've only got, you can have this amp and these microphones and, guess that stuff in the background you were going to play for Rocket. Guess what? That's gone. No sequencers.
Yeah.
You're going to have to play live. I still think they could do it.
Yeah.
I still think they could, they wouldn't please everybody, but I think that they would surprise a lot of people and go, they really can play that.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. I really would, because I think the songs hold up, but there's a big criticism that this album is, the guitars are neutered. You probably heard that so many times, Tim.
There's everything's
no crunch.
Squared off and smooth sound.
But the songs hold up, and I think it would be great, just to put the naysayers once and for all, if they did a concert and they just did it, even not in an arena, but maybe in a concert hall or a pub, I don't know, but just strip it down, but still have it electrified and just play the songs. And I reckon the songs hold up. I think they would do it really well. And you could probably mix in some of the material from this album. And it'd be seamless. You wouldn't have that sort of, there's a bit of a change here, Anyway, we're on Run Riot. So my next one is Love Bites. So I just love the harmonies. I think this was one where this definitely got a lot of the female population into the band. And you can understand why. It was probably their version of Is This Love? The power ballad that just got everyone. And that helped them conquer America, and it ticked over. And another thing, this album, it was a real slow burn album, wasn't it, Tim? This
very much.
Yeah, it just
almost a year.
Yeah. So, and they're one of the few bands that got Diamond status. So Pyromania and Hysteria.
Yeah, they're in that exclusive club, right? And they're one of the only hard rock bands of any sort to be in there. There aren't a lot. But they did it. They did it twice.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's my song, and enough said.
So the next one, which would be my number 9, is Pour Some Sugar on Me. And it's interesting because they had so many hit singles, but yet as the years go by, this song seems to have come out as the definitive Def Leppard song. And was the song that did it for not only the North America at large, but it did it for me too. Like I said, I didn't like Animal at all, and nothing was convincing me that this is a band that I need to get into. But it was something about that song. It was just the right song at the right time that I thought, okay, there's no I like this band. What can I tell you? I like this band. I cannot get enough of the song. It was, you know, 2 years ago it was Bon Jovi, "You Give Love a Bad Name," that just changed everything for me and got me into harder rock music. And this was the reinforcement of that. So, yeah, I think it was April or May of '88 that this came out. I think it was more like May. Perfect summer song, really, when you think about it. But yeah, the album came out in August of '87, so it was almost a year before it really caught on. And it's interesting because "Love Bites" was their only number one song. "Pour Some Sugar on Me" was stuck at number two. Really, I think it's the fact that "Love Bites" went number one on the momentum of "Pour Some Sugar on Me," and that's not to take away from "Love Bites," but you know, the proof is that "Pour Some Sugar on Me" over the years has been the more universal. Like, people that aren't really into music at all, if they just know some '80s music, they know "Pour Some Sugar on Me." They might not know "Love Bites" right away, and yet it was the higher charting song. So chart position doesn't always mean everything. "Pour Some Sugar on Me," and if I had my choice, I would have always had the video version. Um, as the track instead of the a cappella opening, which is okay. It's fine, but I love the video version, the way that comes in, and it just kind of slams along before the song starts in again. Um, but a great song, and you know, probably makes as many people mad as it makes them, happy. It's just one of those polarizing things. But,
It
you
is.
know, admittedly, it's a little overplayed. They've got so many other great songs that I wish got a little bit more attention instead of just making "Pour Some Sugar on Me" the focus track. But a
Mm.
great song. And yeah, that's my number 9 track on my version of Hysteria.
I've got a lot of friends and they love alternative music, punk, hard rock, thrash metal, and they have come to me and they said, guilty pleasure, I like "Pour Some Sugar on Me." So it's just one of those songs.
Yeah.
And you
And
look
it
at them,
did.
so,
It
yeah,
what
it's
it
just,
made it, in that documentary about the making of the album, there's a record exec from Mercury Records who said he'd never seen anything like it, like one single that made such a difference in an album's life. He said at one point they sold 450,000 albums in
mm,
one day. He said that's almost going gold in one day.
yeah,
That's how much the live video, it made them look like a band you wanted to go see in concert, and the song all over the radio. That's how much of an impact that had. That many people had to all decided that they're going to buy that album in one day. That never happens now.
absolutely.
Yeah, so there was just something. It was the totally the right song at the right time. It had magic. There was magic
Yeah,
to it.
absolutely. And I think in that 80s period, there were certain albums and bands that they released it and it was just the right time.
Yeah,
So Whitesnake 87, right
yeah,
time, lightning in the bottle. Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, right time, lightning in a
yeah.
bottle. Timing and luck has a big factor in how these things go. And as I said, this album, Hysteria, it took a long time to really, especially in Australia, it took a long time to go to number one because Def Leppard actually, they were really, they used to tour the world and they went to places like Australia where they weren't so well known. So on the High and Dry tour, they used to play pubs, and I would have loved to have been a lot older and
Wow.
experienced that in the 80s. But seeing Def Leppard playing Selena's at Coogee Bay Hotel, for our Australian viewers, if you know what I'm talking about, seeing them ripping through the riffs, that would have been a great experience. But I think, the fans kind of reinvested that because they, every time they did an album or so, they would come back. But unfortunately, with the Hysteria, they did not tour Australia on the Hysteria tour. They toured on the Adrenalize tour.
Okay.
And I saw them, and that was in the round, and they had Vivian Campbell on guitar. And I have to say, I left the concert 3/4 of the way through. They were really boring.
Wow.
It wasn't good at all. And to be quite frank, I'm not a big fan of the Adrenalize album. To me, it's a bit of a sort of a hash of this album, but not as good. And again, as I said at the start of this show, love hate. I guess it was a bit of hate and then love again. So it's a bit of a roller coaster. But yeah, slow burn album, this one. And but I'd be interested. I still think it ticks over pretty well now, Tim. I think it sells a few units. So I don't know. I don't know what the latest sales figures, but it'd be nudging, you know, like maybe 11, 12 in America at least. I don't know.
Hysteria?
Yeah.
I think it's something like 14 or 15, but I could be, or maybe it's more like 12. But yeah,
nudging.
It's been over 10 for quite a long time, and then
Absolutely.
Pyromania was somewhere a 2 or 3 million behind it, but still enough to make 10.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. My next song is Rocket. So I love that song. Again, that's their start to the concert. It's a homage to all of the bands that they love: the glam 70s, the Sweet, Queen. I love the drum sequences, the patterns. I think it's perfect power pop, a little bit of metal, very little. I like the call and response. I love the production. No, I think you said it really succinctly earlier about Rocket. But that's my next pick, Rocket.
So my number 10 song is actually Women. First track on the album. I love this song so much. It's epic. I love all the chord changes it goes through at the end. It just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing,
Yep.
and then it comes back down. The video is very cool with the whole comic book thing.
Yep.
And in some ways, I think it was a good decision to put a rock track out as the first one, because you're marketing to those people that bought High and Dry and then went back and bought the first two. And it's not that different from the stuff that would follow it, but it's not as poppy. So that's why it only got to number 80 on the charts. It wasn't a big single, and it was a risk. It was a risk because oftentimes, you want that first shot right away. But back then, record companies said, "All right, we'll take a chance and we'll see if we can go so many singles deep with this." But yeah, I really, again, it's the taking a trip thing, that as soon as that comes in and you hear the backwards guitar and then the whole thing comes in, the vocal doubling the guitar melody. It's funny because when it goes into the verses, it's got a bit of that. Again, it's a Mutt Lange thing. It's got a bit of that Jukebox Hero.
Yep.
Almost, and they've said that. They've admitted that. It's sort of an homage to that. But yeah, it might say some might be surprised that I put it all the way up here, but that's just how much I like this song.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised because I've seen a lot of your shows and you've always waxed lyrical about women. So in retrospect, no, that's quite understandable. Hey, I think I've stolen one of your positions because I'm down to my number one. So I think when we were just so immersed in our conversations,
maybe it's because we both had Run Riot in the same spot.
Yeah,
One of us,
I reckon I might have done two in a row. But how about you throw your next one and then we sort of even things out?
Well, there are two songs on this album that I would classify as epic, and they're both side openers. So my next song is Gods of War. This song is just so, like you said, it's a production tour de force. Great melodies. It's kind of moody. It's got some minor chords going on in it. It's very, sadly, it's almost as topical today as it was in 1987. But yeah, I think this was just one where they threw everything against the wall as far as production goes. It's got great drama in it. It's got stops and starts, and yeah, I love how at the end of it, it goes into this section that you haven't heard before with the little sort of arpeggio riff going on. It was very cool live. If you see them do it on the Live in the Round in Your Face, or if you've seen them do it live, it's sort of built for the stage kind of thing. And yeah, definitely would never have been a single, but always been a favorite.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think it's the most technically impressive song on the album. Definitely one for the headphones. It's immense. It's a soundscape, and I understand why you would rate that so high. Rightio. Well, business end for me. The number one that I would pick is Animal or Animal. I love the clever wordplay. I love that change of key in the chorus.
Yeah.
I can understand, like, Britain did resist Def Leppard for a period. Like, they were kind of popular when it was a new wave of British metal. And then I think it was one of the Doningtons, they turned on them, threw beer
Yeah,
bottles at
Donington
them.
or Reading or one of those ones.
Because they were thinking they were a sellout because of the song Hello America. But I don't know whether this song was playing to the smash hits or the top of the pops more, but it definitely got people hearing Def Leppard again in the UK, and it certainly got played in a Australian radio, and I love it. I think I love the wordplay, and as I said, a lot of this wordplay is a lineage back to the glam days where, you know, Slade, Mama, we're all crazy now, and you know, Come On, Feel the Noise, where it's all funny spelling and sort of rhyming slang. So I think it's a lineage to that. It's perfect pop, and you know, and I need, and I want, and I love, and I love it. Yeah, that's my number one. Always had. I just love the chord progressions. I just think it's just really, really kind of neat.
Well, the mathematics work out. That can only leave one thing. I'm gonna end off the album with Armageddon It.
Oh,
I don't know if it's my favorite Def Leppard song, ultimately, but it's up there. For me, this is just ear candy. I've just and you know, when Pour Some Sugar on Me was hitting big, I first got Hysteria, and so Armageddon It wasn't yet a single.
Yeah.
But it was a song after Pour Some Sugar on Me. It was the last song on side one. And to me, that was just a 1-2 punch. You just couldn't go wrong with either of them. I think the harmonies are amazing. I think it's just catchy, just so ridiculously catchy. Yeah, okay, the lyrics don't make a lot of sense, but, you know, it's that... yeah, it's the glam. It's the T-Rex. I mean, my goodness, their brand new album's called Diamond Star Halos, for crying out loud. They're just, they're forever linked to that period. And, you know, because they kind of maybe not oversang, but kind of really got into the singing parts, you could sort of slur, you know, are you getting, yes, I'm getting it. Yes, Armageddon it. And it's you know, it's an interesting play on words. It's definitely the, you know, probably the only top 5 single with the word Armageddon in it that I can think of.
No.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just always been like maybe my favorite song on Hysteria, which is hard to pick, but melody, everything about it, I think it's just a perfect Def Leppard song, and it's my choice to close the album off with.
Absolutely. And you know, sometimes, Tim, you can't intellectualize why you like a song.
You just do.
Yeah, you just do.
It just gets to you, gets in your head, and you have to hear it again.
Sometimes you don't need to justify it. It's not an intellectual process. It's emotional. And well, thanks for that. This has been a really fun chat, Tim, and I am sure that we're going to get some interesting comments.
Hope so. That's the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me what you think, guys and girls. You know, Hysteria. It's definitely a polarizing album, but hey, we're still talking about it to this very day. And all those years ago, 35 years, Tim?
It'll be 35 years in August. That's crazy. Something that came out in 1987 should not be 35.
And yeah, absolutely. I'm feeling old. But we're still talking about it, alas, to this day. So tell us what your comments are. Please subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Please subscribe to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Buy Tim's book. I'll be getting it very soon. Quick plug, Tim. Tell us about it, the book.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, Unspooled and Adventure in 8 Tracks. Def Leppard figures heavily into this book because it is a journey through the 1980s, and they were my favorite band, you know, by the end of the 1980s. So there's lots of Def Leppard mentions. Hysteria. Well, I won't give any spoilers. Hysteria is in there to an extent. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's if you want to order it, send me an email, timsvinylconfessions@gmail.com. Thanks to everybody that's bought the book already. Like Peter, he's just about to receive his. I can feel it. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I've really appreciated this backwards walkthrough an album I've listened to so many times. And sometimes mixing up the track listing can make it almost seem new.
Absolutely, absolutely. It'd be quite interesting just to do a little mixtape and listen to it and see how it flows. Does it flow better than the current one? All right. Thanks a lot, Tim, and we'll catch the viewers soon. See you later.